Hey guys, so welcome back to Witchy Wednesday. Today we are not doing the divination segment of this, only because we wanted to talk about Mercury retrograde, the Mercury in retrograde, and how that affects different aspects of the path and personal life outside of magic, because it affects everybody. And next week will be the going into different divination things. So
I have some cool ideas about divination. So
if you want to start about Mercury in retrograde,
well,
you might know a little bit more than me. I just know it fucks with me. Well, it messes with me.
I honestly have very little idea. I mean, okay, so from a scientific-ish standpoint, it has to do with the alignment of the planets and how
they affect each other and Earth. And
like I think, and then I apologize if I get this wrong. I am no scientist. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just know the way I understand it.
I think this month, this retrograde, it's Mercury in retrograde of Jupiter, I think. I know I kind of looked up how it affects the signs this month, and for Pisces, it essentially says don't multitask, take a step back, and I'm like, well, you know, this is like the time I do the most multitasking because I have my fingers in everything, because I work and and I'm a multitasker. Sorry guys, I keep messing with my phone because I keep getting messages on my phone. But anyway, so like, and then, what are you, Taurus?
Mm-hmm.
And the Taurus was, because Amberly's on the cusp of Cancer and Leo.
Oh, that's another thing we should talk about one day is
Zodiacs,
signs
yeah.
and being cusp signs.
Well, anyway, from what I've understood and how the retrogrades affected me was you really don't do that much ritual work because it's like working in a void course where it kind of like doesn't go the way you want it to do. Like you be careful about financial changes, like signing new leases, buying houses, selling houses, because a lot of times it just flops. So it's like be careful within the financial area. Be careful about doing any kind of spell work because it doesn't always go the way you plan it. It kind of backfires. Whereas in Void of Course, it kind of just goes out and sits and doesn't do anything and it fizzles. From my understanding. For me personally, Mercury in retrograde, no matter what planet it's with, it essentially, like, Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, multiply 1,000%. So I'm just like, okay, this is like the time I take a break from a lot of stuff. I don't meditate really. To prepare for it, I make sure any magical barriers are okay. Like anything that I need cleansed beforehand is cleansed and charged. This one crept up on me, so I did no prepared work for it. And
it's showing.
I don't
mean to be mean, and it's showing.
It's showing. Like
if you were here like late at night. Oh boy.
Well, we've also been going through in the last year, since October, we've been going through a lot of personal stuff, and we are just now getting back on track. I've been sick half the summer. If you've watched a lot of my videos, I've had poison oak most of the summer, which is gone now. I've had like a huge sinus infection going on. Like, I've been super stressed at work, so, like, this has just been, like, the summer of chaos, and, you know, Murphy is laughing at us. So, like, and then, of course, you know, we're kind of entering, or we have entered the retrograde. We're in the shadow period, or we're within days of starting the retrograde for, like, the next week or so. And then we're in the shadow period for, like, another 3 weeks or something. If I remember the dates correctly, I'll look them up and put them down below. But anyway, so Gishwa starts Saturday and ends the following Saturday, and guess what we are in from, like, today through next Saturday? The retrograde. And I swear Misha Collins plans this. That there's always a retrograde or something around this hunt. For those of you who don't know what Gishwas is, there's a video that will be coming out tomorrow that kind of explains that. For those of you who know what it is, awesome. I hope you've done the hunt, or you've helped, or seen it, and you understand it. If you don't, look it up. There's YouTube videos everywhere about this. So how has the retrograde affected you? Like past ones that you can remember?
Well, physically, there have been, you know, like the odd cold or sickness every once in a while, or aches and pains, which are common. Generally, I get really weird feelings. Like, okay, for instance, the past couple days, there has been this feeling of mild paranoia. Very mild. I am not a paranoid person, but like that feeling of I'm being watched, or there's something not right going on.
And I think that has been amplified by the retrograde, but a lot of that's been going on since we moved back over here, because, you know, we went through a lot of personal stuff. So this house magically kind of went dormant, like really dormant. And so with us moving back in, we've slowly been trying to essentially revive the magic and get it flowing again. And, you know, it's taking time. It's taking a lot of time to bring all of that back, to ground ourselves, you know, because we're still not fully grounded. And, you know, so the borders that we've put up, the magical borders for protection and stuff, like, they're broken. And so, like, things are coming through. And a lot of it is, you know, we're used to things passing through. We're used to things stopping by and, you know, watching us. But, you know, they're just kind of curious. And a lot of our borders are to keep the negative BS out. And so there have been things that have come through and have stopped, and we get the feeling of they're not good, but they're not evil, but, you know, they could do harm, or they could be a really good ally, and so, like, they're checking us out, and we're trying to check them out, and so there's, like, a lot of, like, energy going around to where, like...
Okay, let's pause this. I want to show an example. This is like real-world example of retrograde messing with things. Let's flip the camera and show the dogs. Now, yes, they are, you know, hyper because they have been stuck inside all day for family reasons. But when the planets go into a retrograde, animals in general tend to go a little crazy. And I know that I told Marie to flip the camera and they stopped, but they're going...
That's what a lot of the, like, the squeaking and the barking and the noises are.
Pardon the language, they're going batshit.
They're a little crazy anyway because they're Bostons, but, like, they're just a little more hyperactive than normal. And, you know, there's the whole animals can sense stuff. Like, my cat, my Familia, is, like, really weird. She's in a temperamental mood, and everything affects her. But, like, animals and pets can sense, you know, that people always say they can sense spirits, they can sense stuff we can't. You know, they're hypersensitive, I guess would be the term.
Yeah.
And within our house, because Joe and I are both empaths and we're sensitive to the other realms, you know, we can kind of sense, but, you know, they sense a little bit more than us. So, you know, animals are affected just as much as we are. You know, I bet that's why all the kids have been falling off the horses. But anyway, that's an unrelated note.
Retrogrades are weird.
Yeah,
Let's
retrogrades
just state that
affect not only the magic community, you know, pagans, Wiccans, Buddhas, monks, druids, whatever. Not only us, but, you know, they affect the everyday person, you know, the Christians, the Jews, the Native Americans, indigenous people, whatever term they personally like to use, because, you know, every person is different with what they want to use to identify themselves. You know, it even affects the atheist. You know, everyday people, every person. You know, it even affects the Pope, whether the Pope wants to admit it or not. You know, any closing words?
No.
So we have to go to D&D.
I don't really feel like we covered anything. We just talked.
Okay, so here's a question for you. Do you do divination during the retrograde? And if you have, done it not knowing it's the retrograde, how has it affected once you figured out that the retrograde was going on? Or if you know the retrograde's going on, how does it affect your divination or your meditation?
Or just magic in general,
Yeah.
since we didn't really cover divination. That's going to be later on. So magically, in general, there has been an instance where I did a thing. I won't necessarily call it a spell, because at that point I wasn't like... I was playing around. I knew what I was doing, but I wasn't like...
You were kind of dabbling.
Intentionally putting out any one way or the other. And I inadvertently invited something. It was when we were living over there, and I did the fire pit work. And like that whole next month we were dealing with stuff.
Oh yeah. That's another thing, like, even if you're not intentionally doing, like, a ritual or spell work, like, we do the fire pit working where it's essentially, we have the fire pit, and we use the fire to, like, kind of gather energy and to put energy into it, you know. We kind of take the positive and the warmth and put in the negative so the negative can, you know, burn away. So, you know, that in and of itself is energy working. And so, you know, the retrograde affects that. And even if it isn't the retrograde, energy work attracts things. You know, the retrograde, when the veil is thin, the Sabbats, the aspects, you know, anytime, like, it's a holiday type thing, or even, like, just basic energy work, it attracts things, because, you know, everything is connected, and so, like, if we're putting out energy of some sort, things are going to be curious if they're passing through. You know, whether it's good, bad, benign, mischievous, whatever, we've attracted so many mischievous fae, like, it's not even funny. He bought me a pewter fairy one year, and she flies around the house, and...
Are we talking about the first fairy I ever bought you?
Yes, the little one that's the blue light. When he first gave it to me, and we were living over at the apartment when we were first moved in together, she decided to start darting around the apartment. Yeah.
So
this was the little pewter one that you had gotten when we dated in high school or something.
So
but you never gave it to me until we moved in together. And so she started flying around the house. And Joe's like, what in the world is that? Well, we figured out it was this fairy because it was really the only thing we had set up. And so, like, it was the first thing we attracted. And she's been kind of quiet. I think we have to, like, put out more offerings and, like, try and appease everything and bring them back.
I definitely need to do another...
Because, you know, again, we had a situation where we had energy in the house that kind of scattered everything.
So, I'm going to take a pause and just comment. I'm not going to say anything. No names, no, like... The situation we were in and the people we had to deal with made us believe going into it that our house was magically dead.
Yeah.
When it wasn't. And over the course of this
6-month period
interaction, let's call it, they killed it. They killed our house.
They like we had gotten the house to where, like, things were coming, it was all good. I'm not gonna say it's all sunshine and rainbows, because it wasn't. I don't like all sunshine and rainbows, you know. We had the occasional mischievous thing come through, the occasional negative thing that would come through, because, you know, you need positive, negative, gray, white, whatever. You need balance. But what magic we had started flowing through the house with the added energy that was brought into the house for like a 6-month period essentially cut that life force off, killed it, and sent everything scattering. So now we are trying to attract them back, bring the magic back, convince them and show them and regain their trust that it's not going to happen again. And if it happens again, you know, there will be consequences for us, and we understand that. So, you know, this is a week where we're taking off from essentially a lot of major energy work and magic work, you know, because it is the retrograde and we don't need it to backfire on us. But that's not to say we're not going to do any, because, you know, you need to do something. Even, you know, even if it's little meditations and prayers and stuff, because you still need the daily affirmations, whatever you do for them. I try and meditate before I go to sleep because, you know, I work overnight, so, like, my sleep's out of whack, and my mind doesn't shut up. My mind goes in a million miles an hour in a million directions at a time. It's one of those, which way do I go, George? Which way do I go? You know?
That's me every day.
So, I think on this note, we shall end this so we can get ready for D&D.
Maybe we can revisit this and actually do a little more concrete.
We will do more reading up and brushing up on the retrograde, because I'm sure this is a hodgepodge. It runs in circles and makes no sense.
And we apologize. It's just...
We need it to get a video out, because I don't want to lapse in the Witchy Wednesdays, because I want to keep them going. Yeah. You know, it takes 30 days or something for a habit to form. And
right now we're still trying to figure things out. But also, what we have presented is just our basic understanding, and understandings change, so we'll...
And, you know, what we understand and how we interpret it is not the same how the next, you know, a coven will understand it and interpret it and, you know, teach it, or another solitary practitioner, you know. So, you know, it's always good to take the information you're given and research it yourself. All we're doing is giving you a basis to start with. We're giving you the starting point, you know. You can always type in Mercury Retrograde, and you'll get Google pages upon Google pages upon Google pages. That will give you, you know, each page has something slightly different. One page will, you know, Mercury with the zodiac, and Mercury with the planets, and how, you know, Mercury with the moon phases. So, you know, we could sit here and do a 3-hour video on this, minimum. but we're not. So we will see you next week. Peace out, homies.